The school board wants to thank you folks for coming to share your thoughts on the issue of the Indian name at Skowhegan Area High School. The board realizes the community is very passionate about the issue, and we really are looking forward to hearing your comments. We will not be voting on the information we received tonight regarding this issue, but we'll process it over the next few days to discuss at our 5/7 school board meeting, where we will attempt as a board to arrive on a discussion or conclusion on this matter. In order to keep things moving along, we have set up some guidelines. Each speaker will have a 2-minute block to speak. Time will be kept by Mr. Richard Irwin, school board member. The meeting will be ending at 8:30 p.m. unless someone is speaking at that time, then it will conclude after that speaker. Just in case, to avoid any repetition in comments, the board chair may ask for a show of hands on who is in agreement with the speaker if we've heard the same thing kind of over and over again, to move the meeting along. When it is your turn to speak, please start with your name and the town that you reside in, and Mr. Tim Downing, the school board vice chair, will announce the speakers. If the meeting goes to 7:15, we will pause for a 5-minute break, so the board can get going. The guidelines for the meeting, I, board chair, Ms. Anderson, will control the meeting by asking for comments that are only appropriate, non-offensive, or repetitive. Any inappropriate, offensive, rude, or disruptive individuals will be asked to forfeit their time, and if the behavior continues, they will be asked to leave. They will be escorted out by the police officer. This is an open forum for the school board to listen to the public. We may ask clarifying questions. That being said, this isn't a debate or conversation. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions on that? Yes. I don't see a problem with that. Mr. Donald, would you please call the first name?
Does everyone hear me okay? All right. Harold Bigelow from Skowhegan. You've got a microphone right there, Mr. Bigelow. Yes, please. And speak into the microphone fairly close, they tell me.
Like this?
Perfect.
My name is Harold Bigelow, and I did not graduate from Skowhegan. I was born in Skowhegan. My wife graduated in Skowhegan. Both my children graduated in Skowhegan, and my taxes have always gone to Skowhegan. Well, this issue reduced to its lowest form is about doing what is right. 95% of the April Forum was the Native Americans explaining their history, and only 5% of why the symbol offends them. Some of them, because there are Native Americans who are siding with us. The Native Americans today are being compensated for the past with entitlements and free education. I personally feel they ought to focus on their own problems within rather than creating problems for others. This was not a problem before. Our Skowhegan Indian has represented Skowhegan for over 200 years, and it's not racist. Do the right thing. Don't let outside interest influence us. Don't insult our past generations who graduated here and the merchants and taxpayers who pay taxes and support our teams. Don't let the outside influence who care less about us or our town change our symbol. Do what's right. This is our history, not theirs. We are the Skowhegan Indians. And I did it. We could have brought signs too. I got 100 of them out of my house.
Mr. Bigelow, thank you very much. Our next speaker is John Alsop from Thornhill.
Members of the school board, thank you for giving me a chance to speak. I am John Alsop, and I've lived and worked in this community for the past 37 years. 3 of my children have attended the school district. I, like a lot of middle-class white kids, grew up thinking that Indians were long gone in the East and only lived out West in the movies. It's been an education and an honor and a pleasure for me to gain many friends in the Penobscot Nation in the past 30 years and to get to know real live Indians who, despite having been almost wiped out by disease, massacre, and all the rest, in spite of being relegated to a small reservation in the Penobscot River, with their culture, language, and traditions attacked, derided, and demeaned, they've survived and have stood up to reclaim their heritage and rebuild their tribe and their nation. I think this is a good thing, and I think we should all support it. I contend that if we wish to honor the Indians as we say that we do, we should start first by listening to them. And if they tell us they do not want their heritage, their traditions, their culture, and identity used as a mascot, then I think we should do as they ask. I think we owe it to the 4 tribes in Maine to listen to their voices, to understand, respect, and value their point of view as friends should do. And I think we owe it to our children and future generations of SAD 54 students. This is not just a Skowhegan issue, I wish to emphasize. We owe it to them to get this right and to get it right now. I'm all for pride in the good sense, as opposed to that which goeth before a fall. We should take pride in doing the right thing, in building a stronger and better school system, in redressing past wrongs and correcting false history and fallacy, and in reaching out in friendship to our Indian brothers and sisters, the Indian people of Maine. For these reasons, I emphatically support a decision to change the SAD 54 mascot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alsop. Our next speaker is Judy York from Skowhegan.
Hello, my name is Judy York, and I did graduate from Skowhegan, as did my children, grandchildren, my mom. My family has lived in this state since the 1800s. I attended the last meeting. I heard all the council members but one refer to their past growing up in poverty. My family and my husband's family grew up in the same type of poverty. No water, no electricity, etc. What does that have to do with our name? Because that is what this is all about now, our name. We no longer have any images on shirts, fields, courts, etc. The council said there was no problem with our Indian mural in the gym, our downtown sculpture, or our town logo. So what is the problem? We already advertise the Skowhegan Indian in brochures for the tourist industry. What is the difference in using the same terminology to refer to our school? The word mascot, according to Webster's dictionary, means any person, place, or thing supposed to bring good luck. I'm sure all of our teams would be offended if they were told they only won by luck. Whenever we use the term Skowhegan Indians, it has to do with integrity, identity, hard work, and pride. It's who we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our next speaker is Tyler Ring from Canaan.
Hi, my name is Tyler Ring, and I've had a lot of pride in the Indian.
Thank you, Tyler. Our next speaker is Abby Norling from Norridgewock.
I'm Abby Norling from Norridgewock. My family's lived there for 43 years, and all 3 of my kids have attended Skowhegan schools. In my opinion, if the use of any people's name is offensive to that people, in this case Native American Indians, everyone who is not a Native American Indian by birth should absolutely stop the use of that name for their purposes. Tribal leaders and regular Indian citizens as well have made it abundantly clear that they are offended by the continued use of their ancestral name for school sports teams. For all the rest of us, as people whose ancestors came here from away, this is just about sports and resisting change, not about our people's dignity. I fail to understand how, quote, "but we've always used that name," end quote, can be used as an excuse to continue a practice that we have been repeatedly told and all know by now is highly offensive to Native Americans. In no way are we honoring them. Skowhegan is the very last district in our whole state to acknowledge this wrong. It's truly offensive that we persist in this practice, and I am embarrassed and sad that we didn't end it years ago. And this is a very short Cherokee prayer. Oh, Great Spirit, help me always to speak the truth quietly and to listen with an open mind when others speak.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you. Mrs. Norland, our next speaker is Greg Theriault from Skowhegan.
Yes, my name is Greg Theriault. I'm from Skowhegan. Although I did not graduate from Skowhegan High School, my wife certainly did, and my family as well. As someone who has had a letter to the editor on this topic recently published in the Sentinel, I believe that my position of support of maintaining our Skowhegan Indian mascot is relatively well known. I do, however, have two additional points. First, to our Native American citizens, you know, it's not always about you. Sometimes it's about us. While it is true that in the past, terrible things have been done, perpetrated by both sides, terrible things are done during war. And make no mistake, this was perceived by both sides as war and is why war should be avoided. But the history is past. But we do see things of value in your culture, traits to be admired, remembered, and honored, to be celebrated and emulated. This should not be a surprise to anyone. We are told that you do not accept the offered honor. We are also told that some of you do not accept the term Indian. We, however, accept the term, and we will continue to offer the honor. Consider, if you open a door for a lady, and she says she is insulted that you opened that door because she's capable of doing it herself, do you stop opening doors for ladies? I think not. As I said, it's about who you are. Second, to our board, I was going to say that I respectfully request, but no, I think we demand that if this issue does come to a vote, and we hope that it does, that the voice of the people, your employers, will be heard. Let us vote on it, up or down. You should know that the rumor around town is that you want to hold off on making a decision on this issue until after your budget is passed.
Thank you, Mr. Theriault.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Cecil Gray from Skowhegan.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Cecil Gray. I live in Skowhegan, and I'm too tall for this microphone, so be patient. All right, in 1724, Father Ryle and 100 Abenakis were massacred in Norwich by white settlers. Once generalized scalp decrees for rewards were issued, some of the original indigenous residents escaped to spread their culture elsewhere. Ironically, the descendants of some of those who fled are now considered non-residents and cannot speak here. One must put history into context as a foundation in the conversation we are having tonight. This is not about trivial political correctness. It is about civil rights and decency. When the tribal representatives spoke to the board, I was struck by the powerful humility they demonstrated. They laid no blame at our feet for past atrocities. They did remind us, however, how we all benefited from them. They did not reject our intentions of honoring them via mascot. In fact, they honored that intention. They did not call us racist, but reminded us that when one culture is taking high offense at another culture's offering, if that offer is not eventually rescinded, it will fester into a racist issue. I believe that it is common sense for the board to recognize this ultimate point. By a large majority, the present-day indigenous people do not accept the Indian mascot as an honor. As the Bangor Daily News and the Morning Sentinel editorialized, it is time for change. Skowhegan's heritage began after the heritage it replaced, and it is presently one that represents many valid cultures. Honor the indigenous people by granting them their wish and learning their history. Honor all present-day Skowhegan cultures and choose a mascot from Skowhegan's true heritage. River drivers, log rollers, fisher cats, there are many. Have a contest at the school complete with logo. Skowhegan school spirit will remain even stronger, and our teachers and coaches will continue to provide the backbone of a fine social tradition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gold. Our next speaker is Phil Goodell from Skowhegan.
Thank you. My name is Phil Goodell Jr. I'm a proud fourth-generation resident of Skowhegan, and I have Native American ancestry. I, like many here tonight, have had the honor and privilege to have worn the Skowhegan Area High School uniform as a player and as a coach. My daughter and son have worn the orange and black with pride as well. As we all know, several articles were printed in the local newspapers that have generated a spirited and passionate debate within our communities over what is respectful, honorable, and what is considered racism. Many articles have decried Indians are not mascots. I have also heard firsthand from local Native Americans how current use of the Native American imagery in our schools does not offend them, but the use of Indian as a team name is offensive. Isn't the depiction of an Indian and the word Indian one and the same? The ugly narrative that has been put forward in the press portraying Skowhegan Area High School as a bastion of racial injustice is utterly absurd. It reeks of political correctness theater, which must end here today. In fact, there are currently close to 300 high schools across the United States of America that are using some form of an Indian as their mascot or as their team name. It is their right to do so. Even Haskell Indian Nations University from Lawrence, Kansas, an all-Native American university, has a team mascot. It is a Native American, it is an Indian. And their imagery is an American with feathered headdress. Check it out, it's there. Their imagery, logos, and their school song looks and even sounds like ours. As long as we continue to be respectful in our depiction, and it is the will of the community to do so, it is our heritage, our history, and should be left as is, which is our right to do so. In closing, I'd like to remind everybody that our rights do not end when someone else's begins. I'd like to commend the school board for their dedication to their communities. They serve in the difficult and important work that you do on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Brian Luia from Norridgewock.
Thank you. My name is Brian Luia. I was born and grew up in Skowhegan. I graduated from Skowhegan, and I taught in the school system for 25 years. I presently have 3 grandchildren that will be the 5th generation of Skowhegan Indians to graduate from Skowhegan. Obviously, from what I've said, you know where I stand with this issue. My family, as I said, has a long history and heritage. Being a Skowhegan graduate, I understand why a lot of people, when I've heard some of you voice your opinion here tonight, don't really care and supposedly want to do the right thing. And, you know, some of us would say, you don't have any skin in the game. What do I mean by that is that you have no history or no heritage here. It would be like if I moved to Fairfield and they wanted to change their mascot, and I have no heritage or concern, so I might also say it doesn't really make any difference to me. I'm going to apologize before I make my next statement, and my intention is not to offend anybody, but obviously I think somebody already expressed their concern that I hope it's not just you people here at the school board that are going to make this decision. As I look up at all of you, I certainly respect and commend you on the job that you do representing our school system, but very few of you have any history or heritage here in this school system. The second point that I guess I would like to make is that I have a son who lives in Oklahoma, and I travel out there often. And Oklahoma, you may or may not know.
Your time is,
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you very much. And again, I would just ask folks to try and respect the guidelines that have been laid out. It's not easy to get 22, 23 people to agree on anything, and the same can be said for this forum as well. So we are trying to be fair to everyone. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, that is signed up to speak. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. Our next speaker is Richard C. Royce from Norridgewock.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I've had a problem deciding whether or not to come. But to begin with, I was born in Skowhegan. I now live in Norridgewock. And the point I'd like to make is that anyone born in this country is a Native American. Aren't we all Native Americans? If we're not, then we have a major problem on our hands, because if we all identify with our heritage, our ancestors, then that might explain the trouble of the world today. And if this particular dispute tonight is the world's worst problem, we should be thankful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Our next speaker is Mike Turner from Skowhegan.
Hi, I'm Mike Turner, and I was and still am Skowhegan Indian. I got a lot of thoughts on this. We have the Utes of the University of Utah, the Seminoles, Florida State, Chippewas of Central Michigan, Choctaws of Mississippi College, and of course we have the Chicago Blackhawks. And these are all sanctioned by the tribes that they represent. And I just do not understand. We do not use anything derogatory about when we call ourselves Indians. As a matter of fact, I do have some Micmac in me, as well as many people in this town. We've all been intermixed somehow. I don't understand why we're letting an outside group with some sort of agenda coming in here and telling us what to do and what not to do. This is our town. We've been calling ourselves the Indians since, I believe it's the 20s, the 1920s. In the 30s we called ourselves the Braves for a while. But we're all, every one of us that has played on a field in the Skowhegan area has been an Indian, and we are proud of that, and we do not mean any respect, but I don't want anybody coming in and telling me that they don't like my name. Simple as that. And we do it out of respect. We do not do it to harm anybody, or it's not like we're the Redskins, or we don't scalp the Madison Bulldogs anymore. It's nothing like that. So I am, of course, in favor of keeping our heritage and keeping this here. I have grandchildren that have graduated from the town, and it's just a shame that we would have to disrupt this whole thing. And I am done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I apologize. The next name I'm having trouble reading, but it could be possibly Dave or Dean Beers, or it is a Skowhegan resident.
And you signed up right after Mike Turner.
And before Nicole Carter. Does anyone
Possibly
know?
Sean Poirier?
No, I don't think so. You can come take a look. Right here. It might be. Okay, Mr. Poirier. Mr. Poirier. I really butchered that, sorry.
Okay, Sean Poirier, resident of Skowhegan. I want to take this opportunity to share with the board in this public forum a brief acknowledgement of a tangible history, not an intangible, embellished folklore. The man who I call father made the ultimate sacrifice for his country and his family, and for all Americans who have the freedom of speech. It's an offense to me personally when the community that he and I love dearly is portrayed in the negative light of prejudice and racism. The Skowhegan Indians embody bravery, courage, dignity, and leadership. My father, God rest his soul, was a Skowhegan Indian. My 7 sons are Skowhegan Indians. I am a Skowhegan Indian. In my family and community, the word Indian has never been derogatory. Unfortunately, this small Native American group, under the guise of institutionalized racism, is trying to demean a much cherished tradition and a history that is not theirs to extinguish. I ask this Native American group to heed the words of their own Barry David, as he said, "Pride is not in a name. Pride is in your heart." With this being said, I can only ask that the board take into consideration the pride of this individual and his community, who will forevermore be Skowhegan Indians. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nicole Carter from Skowhegan. Thank you.
Okay. I hold a poster of all of our Skowhegan businesses who have placed signs up in them displaying that they would like to keep the Skowhegan Indians. I draw your attention to Pirates, Chiefs, Flying Dutchmen, Titans, Fighting Irish, Minutemen, Texans, Raiders, Chargers, Cowboys, Vikings, Saints, Trojans, Spartans, Mountaineers, Midshipmen, all mascots. As she said, Ms. York said earlier, a mascot is any person, animal, object that brings you luck. In our town, we should be allowed to call ourselves what we choose. This is still a free country. Yes, it may offend some, but that's life. I don't like a lot of things, but not everything can be changed. I think you will find the majority of the people want this to stay the same. And shouldn't at least one form of our government be directed by the majority? So I'm hoping our school board keeps us the same. I'd like to draw your attention also to bullying. Bullying is the use of force, threat, or coercion to abuse, intimidate, or aggressively dominate others. One essential prerequisite is the perception by the bully or by others of an imbalance of social or physical power. Rationalizations of bullies for such behavior in bullying sometimes include social class, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, appearance, behavior, lineage, etc. We are, my friends, being bullied. We are a zero-tolerance district. So please don't be bullied by outsiders who don't know us, don't even care about us, or other than to disrupt our lives and our system. This is our town, our school, and we want it to stay the same. Skowhegan has no offensive imagery and does none of it. We would like our Skowhegan Indians on our t-shirts. We'll do away with the signs. I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Roger Renfro from Skowhegan.
Thank you. I'm Roger Renfrew, and I've lived in Skowhegan for 35 years. My kids have gone through the school system here. How's that? Perfect. If my timer stopped and started again? It's pretty tough, 2 minutes. So I'm Roger Renfrew, and I've lived here in Skowhegan for 35 years, and I've raised my family here. My kids have gone through the school system. So I want to thank the board for this opportunity. I also want to thank the Wabanaki for their presentation a couple of weeks ago in terms of a very strong, powerful set of comments delivered in a very respectful manner, and I appreciate that greatly. So one point I want to make is that nobody is going to force change. This is up to us. We have a First Amendment right to offensive speech. So we have a guarantee on that. We have had a lot of conversation about honor and respect, but it's not respect if it's not received as respect. And the Wabanaki have made this very clear. It's not received as respect. What we love and respect is an 18th century European romantic construct of the noble savage, of people who live in the wilderness and are essentially thoroughly good. It never existed. Do we respect the 21st century Wabanaki? Well, you just have to pick up the newspaper. We do not respect them. Period. So my question to us as a community, to you as a board, are do we stand for offensive speech and disrespect? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Susan Cochran from Skowhegan.
Can you guys hear me? Can everyone hear me? Hello. How about this? Okay. My name is Susan Cochran. I live in Skowhegan. I've been here only for 35 years. I am not a Skowhegan native, but I'm a pretty passionate Skowhegan supporter. I was on the school board for 16 years, raised both of our kids here, and they were pretty passionate Skowhegan Indian sports people. Very passionate, as a matter of fact. And I was very involved with the compromise that the board came to in 2001 when we changed quite a bit. We actually got rid of the actual physical mascot. We painted over the Indian and the Sioux headdress, which was not a bit representative of the Skowhegan Wabanaki tribes, and got rid of the tomahawk chop and all sorts of things like that that were very, very offensive. And that was not in response to our local Wabanaki request. That was in response to a letter from AIM at the time. The change wasn't easy, but we all learned from that compromise, and I think we all learned a lot. In choosing the Indian name, I believe we truly were trying to respect the native history and the heritage of our town. But our currently living native people, who are really not from away, quite a few of them live in the area, certainly quite a few are from the Bangor area, they have made it clear that they feel denigrated by our use of their name as a mascot. This is a tough decision for the board to make, given the multiple strong opinions on this subject, which we all have. As board members, we needed to represent people's wishes in our towns, but we also need to weigh all sides of an issue, as you are doing now. And we need to provide wise, respectful leadership for the whole community and occasionally for the state. That's
Thank you,
required
Ms.
of all board
Cochran.
members.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Mary Stewart of Canaan.
Thank you. I taught in this district for over 23 years. I did not graduate from Skowhegan High School. I went to Bishop McDevitt High School. At first I was going to talk about why are we not changing? Is it out of fear? And fear is a pretty powerful motivator. Are we afraid of change? Is that what this is about? I don't like other people telling me what to do. I don't want to have to change anything. This is my tradition. But then I heard Sean Poirier say something that triggered something else for me. And he mentioned veterans. And I would like to ask, just by a show of hands, how many veterans or active service people we have with us here? Just show of hands. Okay. All right, good. Thank you very much for your service. And I would like to now ask how many of us maybe have a relative who served or a parent or something like that. I'll include myself. Okay, there are a lot of us, right? There's a majority of us, in fact. So, my dad served in the Navy. All my mom's brothers served too. All of my uncles, my dad served. They were veterans. That's my heart, my soul, that's who I am. So, I'm a military veteran, right? It's in my blood. The people who get to choose the honor are the veterans. I'm not a veteran, and we are not Indians. Thank you.
Thank you, Our next speaker signed up is Henry J. Baer. He signed up as the Holt Band of the Maliseets.
Mr. Baer, you are a legislator, correct?
I am.
Thank you.
I admit it. Welcome, everybody. I'm a proud American. Are we all proud Americans? Proud Americans? Okay. I'm a proud Mainer, and I'm a Maliseet Indian. Nothing much has changed over the last 250 years or longer. English, French, Indians, we're still all here. And I won't be politically correct by mentioning others that are now among us. Somebody might have to help me. I'll just hold it. But my point being, 250 years ago, there was a treaty signed with our people in the United States of America. The very first treaty with the United States was signed between the St. John River Indians and the English who were, well, the British who were rebelling against the Old Father across the ocean. And they were quite giddy that immediately after the Declaration of Independence gave them the authority to enter into any treaty with anyone on earth, that the first treaty that these British so-called founders, forefathers, would be signing it with would be with the Americans. We are the Americans. They were describing tribal people when they said, we're going to be signing our first treaty with the Americans. Isn't that great? Titles, names, you know, we don't realize that, I mean, we are Americans. You've just identified yourself as us. And I'm very pleased you've done that. But we are, I think, experiencing an information void. We are not teaching this. We aren't teaching the treaties. The school board, as I take it, and although Maine law requires you to do so, I don't know if you go that deep in relating the total story about this community, about our community, Neelan, all of us together. So I'm here just to encourage community, and to encourage community building, and to encourage communications as between communities that you know, we consider and give weight. Does that mean I already did my 2 minutes?
Yes, thank you.
As between the two communities that we talk about, you know, healing in your decision,
Mr. Baer.
unity and reconciliation.
Thank you.
The next person speaking I have is Mulan Smith, is that correct? Are you a resident or legislator of the district?
I can explain it if I can.
We, after much thought, and we have dealt with this already today, the definition of the district resident being a district where the people live, we are staying with that language. That being said, taxpayers that reside out of the district will not be allowed to speak at this time. Also, anyone with a proxy, it will not be allowed.
We're in a very different situation. The Penobscot Nation currently does not have a representative in the legislature.
I'm sorry.
So, no, I'm going to explain. We do not have a representative in the legislature right now. We voted to revoke our representative. I have a letter from the chief authorizing me.
Excuse me. Again, we're not trying to be rude or exclusive in any way, shape, or form. But please let me finish. The school board had very specific guidelines that they debated and had a strong dialogue and really wrestled with what this forum was expected to be for the community. And as such, we had to come up with definitions, and they're legal definitions. And we had heard that there was interest for state legislators to speak, and we have had one speak just recently. However, the definition of who was going to be speaking this evening did not include anything beyond someone who actually had an official title of legislator. So therefore, no proxies, whether they be representing a legislator or a proxy for another resident in town, was eligible to speak at this forum. Thank you for respecting our guidelines. So our next speaker is Linda Quinn of Skowhegan.
I'm not too tall, I'm too short. And thank you for this, by the way. We can all hear. Thank you very much. One action results in an opposite and equal reaction. Except in this case, the reaction is much greater and perhaps more insidious than was expected. What has been created here is fear. Fear of losing a community identity, fear of being accused of being racist, fear of this is just the beginning of other things that will be forced upon us, fear of our community being run by and dedicated by people from the outside. Fear begets hate, and hate thrives in political correctness. It has always been it has been that way regardless of what you think. It forces ideas, comments, thoughts, and feelings underground where it festers and then becomes an issue where no issue existed before. The Indian is a name Christopher Columbus assigned the people he found here because he thought he was in India. The moniker Native Americans doesn't fit either because early indigenous people who lived here didn't know this was going to be called America. When this issue was examined 15 years ago, it was brought to our attention, again, by outsiders. But the school board and the superintendent at the time took this issue to the local leaders, which included indigenous people who lived in SAD 54. We listened. The mascot has been gone for 15 years. Caricatures, statues, and the like are also gone. You may decide to remove the Indian name from Skowhegan, but the unintended consequences will fall squarely upon your shoulders. Are you prepared for the business community to stop financially supporting our extracurricular activities because we are no longer Skowhegan Indians? Have you seen the signs around town proclaiming Indian pride? Have you even asked a single local Native American what they think? The written name may be gone from view, but it'll never be gone from our hearts.
Our next speaker is Janice Malick from Norridgewock.
My name is Janice Malick. When I moved to Norridgewock over 30 years ago, I was intrigued by the town's name and began researching Maine Native American history and culture. I am here tonight in support of changing the mascot name from Indians. My own 4 children attended Skowhegan Area High School as athletes, and at that time the Skowhegan community was already discussing changing the mascot from Indian. That was over 15 years ago. I am now an elementary school classroom teacher and MSAD 54. Through the district, I have now attended many enlightening Maine Native American workshops led by the Maine Wabanaki tribal leaders and educators. This has helped me to better understand their history and culture and teach it in the classroom. I have much left to learn, but the greatest lesson I learned from these eye-opening workshops and their leaders is respect. Respect for tribal culture, respect for their deep history, respect for a people who have historically endured displacement and discrimination in this state, but most especially, respect for the Wabanaki people as individuals. The name Indians as a mascot disrespects their race and culture. It is clear to me that as fellow human beings, we need to respect their request to change the mascot name from the Indians. I've heard much about the Indian mascot being a tradition. It is time to start a new tradition, one of respect for all cultures and all people. Respect, something we try to teach daily in our schools, as posted on our walls and on our doors. It is time to put energy into finding a school mascot that honors the district without disrespecting its past or present inhabitants. As the famous civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. said, the ultimate measure of a person is not where you stand in the moments of comfort and convenience, but where you stand at time of challenge and controversy. Let's stand for respect. Let's be bold, respectful leaders as you can be, and change the Indian mascot. Mick Seo, the story ends.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Devin Dressler.
Hi, my name is Devin Dressler, and I'm a student athlete here at Skowhegan Area High School.
Speak right into the microphone. Can everybody hear?
Can you guys hear? All right. I'm a student athlete here at Skowhegan Area High School, and I have been a student in Skowhegan since I was 5 years old. And we have been the Skowhegan Indians since the 1920s, and I don't see why we need to change it. I have many goals and aspirations in life. I want to go to college. I want to go to UMO through an ROTC program to be a computer engineer and then go into the military after that to serve 4 years for my country. And even though I have all these goals and aspirations, even if I achieve these goals, my greatest one will be graduating the school as a Skowhegan Indian. And if that can't happen, then that my greatest goal in life will be taken away from me. And they want to take away this goal from so many students here at Skowhegan Area High School. What's the difference between our ancestors that took away what gave them their pride so many years ago? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary McCann Baker from Norwich.
Thank you. I've been a Norwich Walk resident for 36 years. I'm a district elementary school counselor and a civil rights team advisor. I urge the school board and community members to discontinue the use of the word Indian and the imagery associated as mascot. As a school counselor, we teach children, when someone calls you a name, makes gestures, or treats you in a way you find offensive, to respectfully tell them to stop. If the offensive behavior continues, it becomes harassment. We all know there are policies and laws in schools and workplaces against harassment. There is a history of Native people telling school districts that use of the name and imagery is not respectful to them and is offensive. I understand this has started as early as 2001. For them to come again, very respectfully, asking for this to cease, for the district and community to asking them for it to cease, for the district and community continue it would be, in my mind, institutional harassment. At the last forum, school board meeting a month ago, Natives thanked the young people who held a silent protest of signs urging to keep the Indian name. Even though it was the opposing viewpoint, they acknowledged their voice. You can't get much more respectful than that. People in favor of retaining the name seem to not to understand how it would be construed as offensive. It does not matter why it is offensive. It matters that it is offensive, that they have respectfully and repeatedly asked for it to change. Other communities in the state and other states have made the change. Consider the message, school board members, that persisting in using the name and mascot in spite of clear and obvious objection, consider the message this sends to our young people. It's time to do the right and truly respectful thing. Drop the mascot.
Thank you, Ms. President.
Our next speaker is Kevin James from Cornville.
My name is Kevin James from Cornville. I won't go into my lineage very far. I will tell you right off the bat, I'm no political correctness Nazi. You know me, know that. And I did wear the orange and black, having graduated from Brewer High School. I just want to say that that which is traditional is not always good. My recipe for bean whole beans is traditional and good. But using negative stereotypes for sports mascots and advertising is certainly traditional, but good, not so much. Aunt Jemima's awesome town, honey. Pickaninny freeze, 5 cents. Uncle Remus brand syrup, that show am good. The image of a woman holding up a bottle of Del Monte ketchup and asking, "You mean even a woman can open it?" When that sort of imagery was opposed because it was demeaning and offensive to the people being characterized, it went away. But not without howls of, "That's our tradition." When the subject of your caricature tells you that instead of feeling honored, they feel insulted, that should be all the reason you need to get yourself another way of looking at this. When was the last time you were the victim of negative stereotyping and liked it? Drunken Irishman? Dull-witted Frenchman? The best reason I can think of to change the mascot is that to continue to use it would be rude. End of story.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. The next speaker is Cindy Robertson from Skowhegan.
Hi, I'm Cindy Robertson. I have lived in Skowhegan for 32 years and my sons attended school here. I think that I'm mostly reiterating something that's been said before, that if we mean to honor a people and they feel dishonored by what we are doing, we need to listen to that. I remember going through medical school as a woman, one of the few in my class, and it felt as though it was a moment of dishonor until there were more of us, and now there is more honor there. My son, 16 years ago, sang at a rap concert that he arranged. It was called Diversity Day. There was a little more recognition of African American culture than there had been before. If we mean to honor a people, we need to listen to whether they're honored by our gesture or not.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ann Dorney from Norridgewock.
My name is Ann Dorney. I live in Norridgewock. I'm a family physician, and I've been in Skowhegan at Reddington Fairview for 32 years. I have taken care of patients in this community from all walks of life. Patients who are Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Wiccan, Hindu, Muslim, and people from many ethnic backgrounds. About half the physicians now at Reddington Fairview are foreigners, and they are well trained and do a great job. I feel that the question at hand is whether, as a community, we want to be welcoming and sensitive to the feelings of the minorities who live here. I want to share an experience I had in college. I went to a Quaker college in the Midwest, and for those of you who do not know Quakers make decisions by consensus, including all the decisions on my college campus. That does not mean that people always agree, but it means that they work to find compromise that everyone can live with for the sake of their community. I remember an experience my sophomore year. There was a meeting of everyone in my female dorm about whether to lock the dorm. There was a lot of discussion about the issue, and of all the students in the dorm, only 2 of the students wanted the dorm locked. The rest of the people did not. You would think, since the supermajority of the people wanted the dorm unlocked, the solution would be to leave the dorm unlocked, but that was not the decision. You see, in the end, we realized that the 2 people who wanted the dorm locked would not have felt safe in an unlocked dorm, and we all needed to listen to their concerns. The dorm was locked, and everyone got keys. This is not unlike the situation we have here. We have a minority in our community who feels very strongly that something that they're doing makes them very uncomfortable. Sometimes when we look at a problem, we're asking the wrong question.
Thank you, Dr.
I would say we're not asking about the mascot, but what we can do to make a consensus.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Next speaker, I think, is Jan Stringos. How close did I come? All right, thank you.
Thank you. I've been in this district for 45 years. My daughter graduated from this district. And the year she graduated, we took a car trip out west. We got to Wyoming, and we're at a sporting goods store, and she has on her Skowhegan Indians t-shirt with all of her classmates on the back. And the man across the counter looks at us and looks at her and says, she might not want to wear that t-shirt around here. And we could have felt threatened, but we didn't. It was one of those moments when you said, this needs a discussion. So we went back to the car and we had the discussion. And the discussion is that our tribal neighbors, our tribal community neighbors, they do not want to be used as a mascot. And as people have said, if we really respect them, we will listen to what they are saying. We live on a beautiful river. Let's have a different conversation. Let's look at the river. Let's look at the beauty where we are. Let's change the conversation. We do not need this mascot to be forever. It can change. Let's look at changing the mascot.
Our next speaker is Dennis Cully from Mercer.
Hello, members of the board. I commend you for the work you're doing. I served on this board in the late 90s at a time before the AIM letter when this issue first came up. And it was not an easy thing. I was very much in the minority in being opposed to the egregious caricatures that were being used at that time. But the board did very good work in the years after that. Now, I wasn't part of those boards. I watched it from afar, and they did very good work. And I think you're handling this process very well. This is no fun. I've been in those seats. I appreciate your efforts. All I've heard is that the people who we're trying to honor don't want to be honored with the honor we're offering. And they seem as if they've asked in a very polite way, and they've asked repeatedly. I think as good neighbors, the least we can do is to accommodate them. Good luck in your work.
Thank you, Mr. Cully. Our next speaker is Derek Ellis from Skowhegan.
Hi, I'm Derek Ellis from Skowhegan. I graduated from Skowhegan High School.
cannot tell you how many times in my life I've been asked where I went to school. I have never once answered that I went to Indian or I wasn't Indian. I went to Skowhegan Area High. I have several friends, personal close friends, some of which graduated from this school. One who went on to be a professor of Indigenous Studies at UCLA. I've had discussions with her at length. When this first came up, let me back up. This isn't new. I immediately got in contact with her. I don't like change either. It seems as though we've been asked politely and respectfully again and again and again by people who are true natives to this area. They don't want anything more. At the dedication for the Indian Restoration downtown, they seem to be honored. To me, it's as simple as, this isn't something new. If it's truly offensive to any race of people, then it should be considered. We don't own that name. That's not who we are. We're a community, bonded in a million different ways. Some of us work together, some of us play together, but we do not own that. Been more than respectful, I think, in the way that we've been asked. Thank you,
Mr. Ellis.
Our next speaker is Melissa Keister from Norridgewock.
Hi, my name is Melissa Keister, born and raised in Skowhegan, graduate of Skowhegan Area High School, 1992. I had a bunch of stuff written down that I wanted to read, but in hearing other people's things, I have a few things that I want to say otherwise. I hear a lot being said about it being offensive. It may be offensive to few, or even a lot, but it's not offensive to all natives. My stepfather is a Mi'kmaq Indian, and I have long conversations with him about this. He does not find it in any way offensive. We're not running around a field in headdress, we're not carrying a tomahawk, and we're not going, woo, you know, we're just trying to honor, or not so much honor, I'm sorry, we don't owe it to them to honor them, I don't believe. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any Indians, but we're trying to recognize part of our history here in this town. And I have nothing but respect for these, people, all of us. I have Indian on my maternal grandfather's side, and I don't find it offensive. What I do find offensive is that somebody's going to come in here and try to bully us into changing it when we're trying to tell people not to be bullied, to stand up for how you feel. On April 29, 2015, the state of Colorado, who has a large Native American population, voted against Bill 1165, which would require tribal approval for public schools to continue using Native American mascots for public schools. The state cited its major reason for voting the bill down as local control. This is a local issue. I think the overwhelming number of signatures has showed that we feel greatly about this. While we understand that they feel passionately about it, so do we. And I hope you guys will consider that, the people of this town feel very strongly about it. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, the board's going to take a 5-minute break just to get a drink or use the facilities. We will be right back. A few more speakers.
Our next speaker is Ivor Lovely. Skowhegan, sorry.
All right. I'm Ivor Luffing, and I have been here for quite a while. Listen, I think that the Indian was a great mascot from whenever it started until about 2001. After that, we became aware that Native Americans didn't like it. Since then, we've had an occasional rally with people jumping around, but overall, we haven't really been able to have a mascot at all. And I have a very simple way of determining how good a sports event is. A sunny day, the kids are having a good time, and a really good hot dog. And I've got to say that the baseball boosters have been putting together some amazing hot dogs, nearly perfect hot dogs. Anyway, I have to say that I think we should move on. I think we should have a mascot, like, you go down to Waterville and they have the Purple Panthers, and the guy has a drum and they jump around, and they look like they're having an awful lot of fun. So I personally think we ought to move on, we ought to focus on the things that are important, like, are the kids having fun, and are there good hot dogs? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marilyn Bailey from Skowhegan.
My name is Maililani Bailey.
Thank you very much.
I'm so used to it. I'd just like to say that I'm really irritated to hear people refer to people from away. I mean, the Indians are the ultimate people not from away. They've been here since the last Ice Age, 13,000 years. So let's get that straight. We are the ones from away. And another thing that irritates me is people saying, this is our heritage. It's only been since the 20s. Only since 1942 that the Lever, the high school yearbook, has depicted an Indian. So I wouldn't say that that's very long. That's not a very long heritage.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jean Pillsbury from Skowhegan.
Microphones scare me, and I'm short. So, well, I'm Jean Pillsbury. I was born in France. I lived in Taunton, Massachusetts, a big part of my life. I was raised a Taunton Tiger. I went to the University of Maine at Farmington, where I was a UMF Beaver. And I went to the University of Maine at Orono, where I was a black bear. My 3 daughters and my son are being raised here in Skowhegan. 3 daughters who graduated from high school here, played sports here, and we're very proud to be from Skowhegan High School. Who they are as people is not attached to the mascot that they were named from the school that they attended or the school that I attended. Who I am, I try to be someone who is honest, hardworking, and has integrity. And I work at a school where I teach the children every day to speak up for one another and for themselves. I had no plan, no intention of speaking at this event or even actually attending. But I woke up this morning and I thought about my son and the message that I give to the children at school and said it is important to be an upstander. And an upstander we teach at school is someone who will not stand idly by when someone else claims to be being hurt physically or emotionally in any way, shape, or form. I'm being an upstander today and asking you all, the school board members, yourself, to be an upstander for those who are offended by our Skowhegan Indian mascot. And I urge you to take action as an upstander. Thank you.
The next speaker is Linda Dunbar of Canaan.
Hi, my name is Linda Dunbar, and without giving my age away, I've lived in Skowhegan Canyon area for over 60 years. My question is, why were we, excuse me, I'm a little bit scared. Why were we only allowed 2 minutes to talk when I sat at the last meeting for over 2 hours to have 10 people talk? And when they brought up the movie Peter Pan and they were offended by the kid having a feather in the movie, that's when I said, enough is enough, and I'm gone. I'm here because of the kids that were outside. When I came in, I hope all of you will let the school district, we as towns, taxpayers, vote, not you. It's bigger than these tables put together. Thank you for your time. And I was actually the first class that graduated from this high school, and proud supporter. And thank you very much, guys. Thank you for coming back.
Michael Lampke of Skowhegan.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm inspired by everyone's statements here tonight. The passion is wonderful, and I really appreciate the honesty. Respect is a core value of our families, our school district, community, churches, and tribes. For those of us with mission statements, it is written as a core value. Out of respect for ourselves and others comes self-worth, leading to success in relationships, business, and life. Many of us self-identify as Skowhegan Indians and feel pride in that name. If used with honor, then the measure of success is that all are proud to be called Skowhegan Indians, including the Native Americans. It is clear that Native tribal members and some members of our community do not feel honored. Like bullying and fighting, continued use of disrespectful statements and actions demean all involved. We know that people are defensive of their tribe on both sides of this issue. Understanding is a viable, some would say the only path forward. From understanding, we achieve respect. Understanding may mean changing our mascot to avoid disrespect. Understanding may mean an extensive educational program resulting in the celebration and integration of modern Native peoples, beliefs, and culture into our community. Understanding may mean that we have no mascot. This is a leadership opportunity for the board and for the town. If we take this to a vote, we can lead as a town, and the board itself can lead as a board. I'd like to close with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh that I'd like everyone to consider. Understanding another requires letting go of one's truth. Good luck.
The next speaker is Deegan Murphy from Skowhegan.
Hello. I've lived in town for really only 2 years. I'm not from here originally, but I've lived in town for 2 years. And I grew up in Scarborough, which was the first town to go through a controversy like this. I graduated from that high school in 2001. And I graduated from that high school under the mascot name the Red Riots. When I entered the high school, it was the Redskins. And I'll tell you, this controversy sounds very familiar to me. Both my last 2 years in high school felt exactly like this, very passionate, speaking on both sides of a pretty controversial issue. And I'll say that 15 years later, Skowhegan's over it. And we have a new mascot, and my impression is that the town has pretty well embraced it, and I certainly have. I have a lot of respect for everybody in the room who feels like the mascot name here in Skowhegan is honoring the Wabanaki people, but based on what I've heard from people who identify as Native, that's not what I'm hearing. When I was in high school, one of my classmates that I grew up with identified as Penobscot, and her family too. She not only did not feel honored by the mascot names in Maine, the Native mascot names like Redskins, Indians, but she felt belittled, actually. And so I stood with her when we were going about making the name change. I was standing with her in favor of changing the name, and I would stand in favor of changing the name here as well. I'll say that when I came to Skowhegan a couple years ago, I was attracted to this town by the positive change I saw in this community. I had passed through here a number of times over the years. I have a lot of friends in Central Maine. I had spent a good deal of time in town in 2005, walking around town, really experiencing the place. And when I came back 8 years later to experience it again, I saw a lot of really positive new changes here. People in this community are facing a lot of challenges, and a lot of other communities similarly, and we've tackled those changes. I'd like to see us continue to move forward.
Our next speaker is Bob McLaughlin of Skowhegan.
My name is Bob McLaughlin, and I have lived in Skowhegan since 1983. Our two sons graduated from Skowhegan High School. I want to direct the board's attention as you take on this decision to the conflict, the issue, the question between intent and effect, because that's what this question that you have tries to address in the issue of this mascot. I had the privilege as a journalist of breaking the story back in 1978 of the Maine tribal land claims, when a federal court ruled that the treaties that Maine signed with the tribes with the intent of dispossessing them of their land had not been ratified by Congress, therefore were null and void. I had the privilege of working with John Stevens, then governor of the Passamaquoddy Reservation, in developing the history around that story. And he told me about going to the Attorney General's office with those old treaties, which a senior member of the tribe had found under a bed, expecting them to say, "We didn't mean to do this. We'll make it right." His words were, "I had the dream of never going to court." He learned that the defense of the effect of these treaties were what the issue would be about. As a counselor, I address in conflict in families the difference between intent and effect, the root of many conflicts. I'm charging this board, when you address this question,
Thank you, Mr.
to address the effect.
Thank you.
That's the last of our speakers, so I will turn it over to our chair, Liz Anderson, for a closing statement.
I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. We appreciate your time and your patience, and hopefully we have tried to structure this and stick to the structure. It was a difficult decision for the board, and I hope that you all respect that. We as a board have much to process over the next few days on this matter and the general work at hand. It is the board's hope to bring some resolution to the question on Thursday, May 7th at 7 p.m. in the cafeteria here at the middle school. Please remember, we're just regular folks trying to do what's best for children and their education. Again, we thank you for your comments and your thoughts. We will take any written testimony. And certainly, if were not able to speak here this evening, you can certainly email us. Our email addresses are on the district website, and we'd be happy to pass that information along to the board. Thank you for coming. If no one on the board has any clarifying questions, could you please raise your hand? We're adjourned. Thank you.